Hello, I'm Richard Cross, the Head of Safeguarding for the Church of Scotland. The Safeguarding Service is delivered on behalf of the Safeguarding Committee, and the team is based in 121 George Street, Edinburgh. Safeguarding is about preventing harm and abuse and making sure that if it occurs, a timely and appropriate response is made. Membership of the Protecting Vulnerable Groups scheme, also known as the PVG scheme, is an important part of safe recruitment and preventing harm and abuse. It ensures that only those people who are suitable to work with children and protected adults become or continue to be volunteers or paid members of staff. The Church is in the process of ensuring that all paid staff and volunteers doing regulated work join the PVG scheme by October 2015. At present, we're managing a very large number of applications, and what we're discovering is that there are some common errors or mistakes on many of those forms. This obviously delays the safe recruitment process. So this video is about completing those forms and avoiding the common errors. It's primarily aimed at safeguarding coordinators, but applicants might also find the video useful. You might find it helpful to have a copy of the application form in front of you whilst you are viewing the video. So let's see how Agnes and Helen get on with the application process.
Hi Helen, thank you for coming to see me today.
Thanks, Agnes.
Right, I can see you've completed the application to join PVG scheme form. Can I just check that you haven't joined the scheme already, for instance through your work?
No, I haven't. I have a disclosure though.
That isn't the same. Even if you've completed a disclosure before, you still need to join the PVG scheme. Although, if you had already joined the PVG scheme, you would need to complete the existing PVG scheme member application form. Let's have a look at your application form. I can see you have filled most of it out already, so I just have to check the details. Did you read the applicant's guidelines sheet that the Safeguarding Service sent out with the application form?
Yes, it all seems pretty straightforward.
It mostly is, but there are a few mistakes that keep getting made, and if we refer back to our guidance sheets, they will keep us right. So let's start. A1. It is a scheme record we require, so you put a cross in that box. Now A2. Who are you working with, children or protected adults?
It is children I'm working with just now, but could we not just cross both? It will save time later if I start working with adults.
Sadly no, we're not allowed to do that. You can only register for the workforce you are going to be working with right away, not something that might happen in the future. A3. Well, we're not set up for online accounts yet, so cross no. Now your details. B1. Your title. Do you go under Mrs., Ms. or Miss?
Mrs.
OK, cross that box. And your surname. I've got to be careful and check the spelling of Thompson is without a P and is the same as the evidence that you show me. Right, Helen, I notice you've put Margaret down as your first forename.
That's because my full name is Margaret Helen, but there were so many called Margaret in the family that I have always been known as Helen.
You've got it correct then. It should be your given forenames in the correct order, including all middle names, even if you don't use them. I see you have crossed that you have not been known by any other name at B5, but was your surname different before you got married?
Yes, it was McGovern.
Then we need to cross yes at B5, and we can use correction fluid as long as we keep it neat, and then fill in your maiden name. A lot of people miss this one out, as if you have changed your name for any reason, marriage, adoption after 8 years of age, or just did not like your former name, you still have to enter your previous name here. McGovern, is that the only previous surname you've had?
Yes, just McGovern.
Fine. Now I see you have filled in your mother's maiden name at B13.
Why do you need that?
It is a security check and might be important when people share very similar names and dates of birth.
OK.
You have completed your date of birth and the other details at B16, B17 and B18, not forgetting to cross the gender box. I see you've not filled in your contact details at B19 to 22. They are not mandatory, but you can include them so that Disclosure Scotland or the Safeguarding Service can contact you directly, perhaps to verify something on your application form.
Yes. OK.
So over to page 2. A lot of people get this next bit wrong. There are 6 mandatory questions that ask yes or no. If you answer yes to any of the questions, you must fill in the details. I can see you have completed your national insurance number and your 9-digit passport number. You have crossed yes for having a driving licence, but you haven't written down the number or the country of issue. So have you got your driving licence to hand, and we will put in the details?
Yes. Here it is.
Your driving licence number begins with the first 5 letters of your surname. Now the next few questions you haven't crossed yes or no at all.
I wasn't sure what to put in there.
Do you have a national identity card issued by the government?
No.
Are you or have you ever been a member of the PVG scheme previously, for instance through your work?
No.
Are you registered with the ISA?
What's that?
The Independent Safeguarding Authority, the England and Wales equivalent of Disclosure Scotland, although they have just changed their name to the DBS, Disclosure and Barring Service.
No, I haven't been a member of those.
OK, so now you have finished all of the additional information, we go on to your address. I think this bit is pretty straightforward, but the bit people do miss out is the resident from, month and year boxes at B44 and 45. If that date is less than 5 years ago, then you have to complete the additional address history boxes, not forgetting the resident from dates, with all the addresses you have stayed at over the past 5 years. You will see there are sections for 5 previous addresses because some people move around a lot.
I've been at this address since April 2005, so does that mean I don't need to put in any other addresses where I lived before that?
That's right, only addresses you have stayed during the past 5 years. Now B83, just above Part C. This question gets missed a lot. Regulatory body details. Are you registered with any regulatory body, for example, the General Teaching Council for Scotland or the SSSC? If so, we would need to complete the regulatory body code and registration number.
No, I'm not registered with anything like that.
Then on to your final bit. You have signed and dated the form and the date is within 3 months, so that is fine. I have a few more bits to do and I still have to verify the photo and address evidence you have brought, so please bear with me. D1 and 3, payment. This is for a voluntary position, so I cross yes, but if it was for a paid post, then we would need to note how we were paying for the application. Now I have to fill in part E. E1, you have not started work yet, so no. E2, you're not carrying out the work at home, so no. Organisation name. The guidelines say Church of Scotland should be filled in and not our congregation. Position applied for. You're working with the Sunday school, right?
That's right.
So Congregational Children's Worker is the title that covers that, and most other roles for working with children in the congregation. All the roles are on this pink sheet that the Safeguarding Service sends out with the application form to coordinators. Now, I have to leave boxes E7 to E15 and parts F, G and H all blank. They are filled in by the office and I only need to check your evidence and fill in the scheme record cover sheet. What ID have you brought with you for me to check your photo and address apart from your driving licence?
I also have my previous disclosure certificate and my passport.
Unfortunately, you cannot use a previous disclosure or PVG certificate as proof of identity. We can use the others though, and whilst your photographic driving licence can cover both your photo and address ID, it is better for me to see 2 separate items to check these, and then I can check the numbers off against what you recorded under additional information and tick them off on the multi-cover sheet.
Oh, that's good because I was really struggling to find something else with my address. Most of our utility bills and statements are online now, and most are in my husband's name anyway. What else could I have used if I hadn't had my driving licence?
We are having to think about alternatives. As you say, often bills and statements are in the spouse or partner's name or are sent electronically. and it is even worse for young people still living with their parents. We have had to use their exam results, medical prescriptions, letters from the tax people or the job centre they sign on at. There is a note on the back of the cover sheet giving examples of ID that can be used. Right, that's the application finished. Do you have your self-declaration sheet?
Yes, here it is.
No, seal it in the envelope before you give it to me, but before you do, can you please check that you've signed, printed your name and put the date on page 2?
I didn't realise that was there. I'll do that now.
Thanks. It's kept strictly confidential and is used if there is anything reported on your PVG certificate that the Safeguarding Service needs to consider before they can advise me whether they can recommend your appointment or not. That way, I will not see any information that is confidential to you. I'll get all this sent off right away, and I am quite confident that the office will not send this one back to me. So you should get your certificate back in 6 or 7 weeks as long as there are no queries.
At the start, you asked me if I was already a member of the PVG scheme. What if I was a member through other voluntary or paid work for a non-Church of Scotland organisation?
In that case, you would complete an existing PVG scheme member application form. It is much shorter than when applying to join the PVG scheme. Part A1 is quite complicated though. If you are already a member of the scheme and are now updating that record, for example, you have a scheme record for children and this application relates to work with children, then you would cross Scheme Record Update. If you are already a scheme member for one type of regulated work, for example with children, and now want to expand your membership to include the other type of regulated work, with protected adults, then you would cross Scheme Record. A2. The applicant should note which groups this application relates to working with, children, protected adults, or both. A3. This is also complicated as you should answer yes if you already have a scheme record for working with the groups indicated at A2. For instance, if this application is for working with children and you already have a scheme record for working with children. You should answer no if you do not already have a scheme record for working with the groups indicated at A2. For example, if this application is for working with protected adults and you already have a scheme record for working with children. You should also answer no if this application is for working with children and protected adults and you already have a scheme record for working with only one of the groups.
That sounds really confusing.
It can be, but it is outlined in the applicant's guidelines. The other bit on this form, which is often wrong, is B1, the PVG scheme ID. This is a 16-digit number that is on the PVG scheme record certificate that people receive. The number is often confused with the disclosure number, which is a 15-digit number and is not the same.
What about the self-declaration form? Do I need to fill in another one if I was already a PVG scheme member?
Yes, you need to complete a self-declaration form for every PVG application that you complete for the Church of Scotland, as well as providing photo and address ID. Well, thank you very much, Helen, for coming to see me today.
Thanks, Agnes.
We hope that you have found this video helpful. You can find out more information about the Safeguarding Service and the PVG scheme at the Church of Scotland web pages. Just look us up under Safeguarding Service. Thank you for viewing this video.